back, everyone, from lunch. We are on our second panel of the day for CEGIS, how to produce a world-class esports event. I'll be your host this time. My name is Jennifer, and I would like to first start by introducing our keynote speaker, Vincent Hui.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Everyone having a good day? Yeah, perfect. Awesome. So unfortunately, you're stuck with me for like the next 20 minutes. I'm a little bit of a joker, as you can tell, but I do love what I do. I love esports. It's after lunch. I'm sure everyone's had their lunch. Some people are like falling asleep. So my presentation, I'm not going to tell you a lot of stuff. I will tell you stuff, but also I want you guys to be engaged. So we're going to start with a couple questions just to get to know you guys, because I think that's really important. We'll talk about me as well. Obviously, I'll have a formal introduction. My name is Vince. I am the co-founder and owner of Incendium Gaming. In short, without getting into the details, we do a lot of cool events in the fighting game community. We'll talk a little bit more when we start the panel. But first question for you guys: How many of you? This is your first esports event ever? Raise your hand. Okay, so there's a few of you. I know most of the people in the crowd. There's also stuff for you. Don't worry. How many of you guys work in esports or have done contracting in esports? All right, so all the usual suspects that I already know. Perfect. So pretty diverse group so far, right? A lot of first timers, which is great. I love that. So next question is, how many of you guys are students? Because I know there's a lot of you out there. Perfect. That's great. That's what I want to see, because you guys are our next generation for what we do. And that's really important that you guys are here, because you're going to learn something today. All right. So I'm really happy to see that there's a diverse group, contractors, people who have worked in esports, peers. Shout outs to Kevin for inviting me out here to talk to you guys. Battle of BC is one of Canada's forefront events, especially for Super Smash Brothers and FGC. So I really appreciate Kevin for inviting me out here to chat with you guys today. Yeah, let's give Kevin a hand. All right, so today we're here to talk about what it takes to build a world-class event. So once again, keep you guys engaged. How many of you guys have been to what you consider to be a world-class esports event? All right, there's a lot of you. I know the usual suspects that I'm friends with have been to them. How many of you guys have worked world-class esports event? Wow, okay, a few hands, all right. I know, but you can't hide, I know who you are. That said, seems like, we're a little bit limited time, but I'm gonna ask some questions because I wanna get to know you guys a little bit better. So the question I'm gonna ask you guys is, what do you guys think it takes to be a world-class esports event? Let's start with people who maybe haven't worked in an esports event, but you've attended one. Just trying to pick a couple people, a couple victims here. What do you think makes a good esports event? Any hands? Any takers? Okay, go ahead. So number of people, how big your event is. Perfect, that's one perspective. Anyone else? All right, okay, so that's a big one, because people like big events. Oh, another one there. Good storytelling. All right, yeah, we want to see people get roasted on stream. Yep, another one. Okay, logistics, that's a great one. Okay, this is a question for the people who have worked esports events. To you, what makes a world-class esports event? Trick question, so go ahead. The people, that's great. That's huge. Can't do it without the people. Another one? Definitely, you can't do it without the passion. I'm glad to hear nobody said getting paid on time. because that's a real issue in our industry and something that we have to address. And that is part of what makes a world-class event. So, what I want to share with you today, I've been in this business for 20 years, lots of events, hundreds, thousands of events. Over that long period of time, I have great events. That's what mostly I'm known for now. But I've also had really bad events. And you're like, Vince, why do you want to talk about the really bad ones? Well, it's important because it's learning, right? All these events that we do, we have to learn from all of them. And that's how we get better. So for those who know me, I've been around for a long time, been around at the helm of a lot of big events. So for those who know me really well, you guys have been probably waiting to hear me talk about this one for a really long time. I would say since 2018. So those who don't, I'll give you the background. So back in the day, I used to be one of the head tournament organizers for an event called Canada Cup. At the time, it was, and for much of the time, I still think it is one of Canada's biggest fighting game tournaments. Numbers-wise, I think even if we compare to events today, we're right up there, probably top 3. But if you guys know the story, 2018, that year was a disaster. That whole organization crumbled under one event. So just to give you some background, I worked at an event for 11 months, planning from start to finish. And at the end, it went down in history as one of the worst fighting game tournaments in Canadian history. It literally changed the face of the industry for the fighting game community here in Canada. So once again, like, why do I want to talk about that? Really, honestly, it's about the lessons learned. You know, what did I really learn from that? Because to share at the end of the story, it's been 2018, so it's been 7 years going on. I started my company out of the ashes of Canada Cup. At the time, you know, I wasn't the one in charge. A lot of different things going on, definitely from a management standpoint. But Canada Cup, we were the biggest. We were the guys, right? So when people talked about Canada and fighting game tournaments, Street Fighter specifically, I love it. That's my passion. Canada Cup was the biggest. It had all the top players that you would want come out. But retrospectively, looking back at it, 2018, that event, to share a little bit personally, that event ruined my life. I worked on that event for 11 months. It was a disaster. To give you an example of how big a disaster it was, the convention center shut off the power during top 8 of Street Fighter finals. So not only did we have Capcom, the game developers, being a part of their official tour, standing there being like, what the heck is going on? We had all the red flags that had come up. So what's the lesson here? The lesson that I learned out of that was I didn't do things the way that I thought they should be done. And we got blinded by a lot of the big lights. So really what came out of that is I started my company. And the lessons that I learned from that event are essentially what created the foundation for my company and why I feel like to this day we're pretty successful. So the first lesson here is empathy, right? It's like, put yourselves as event organizers, we need to put ourselves in everyone's shoes, not just attendees. So we had a lot of really good examples, right? One said the event's got to have a lot of people, right? That's the baseline. People think it's like, oh, this great event's great because it's got X thousand number of people, right? But the reality of it is there's a lot more that goes into that, right? You might have the most people, but you might not be the best event experience out there. So when I say empathy is important, you need to put yourselves in your shoes, not just of your attendees, but of your staff and your organization. Right? So we talked a little bit about people. Why are people important, right? You know, when we do these events, you know, for those who have worked events, you know the epic stories of like, yeah, I didn't sleep for like 100 hours. Like I worked for like 78, 72 hours straight. It was awful. And then of course, you know, I joked about getting paid on time, right? That's a big deal, right? That's an issue for those who work in the industry that we've always had. And it continues to happen, which sucks. However, the good news is we can be part of the solution. That's really the key here, is when we talk about empathy, putting yourself in the shoes of everyone that's part of your event, not just the attendees. I know we focused on the attendees, right? But we also have to think of the staff, right? How many hours are they working? How much are they getting paid? Are they getting worth the value that they're really worth, right? And on the other hand, what we always forget as tournament organizers, because we love money, right? We're like, anything we can do to make our events bigger, our partners. We can't do our events without our partners, right? So it's really important, once again, you need to when you're talking to your partners, when you're building brand relationships, empathy is really important because you need to say, hey, for my partners, what moves the needles for these guys, right? My reps, when they go back to their managers, what's gonna keep them happy and keep them coming back and wanting to do more with my event, right? So empathy is really important. Right? And as we know, we live in an age where empathy is pretty hard to come by, right? We live in a social media vacuum where people are saying all sorts of stuff, but as event organizers, we need to be better, right? We need to lead by example. So empathy is really important. And another thing that we should talk about is accountability. That's a big one. So going back to Canada Cup 2018, after that fiasco, Definitely, people always ask me like, oh, could you have salvaged it? It's like, also it's like, oh, when's the next Canada Cup? It always pains me when people ask me that. And I go, well, you know what? It's like, we need to build better. That was cool. We did that. We did a phase, but we can be better, right? So when people ask me, Canada Cup, what made it really fail? There's no accountability. Right? When things go bad, you just need to say, hey, things are bad. That's my fault. I'm responsible. We'll do better next time, right? And that's really important. As a tournament organizer, as an event organizer, nothing's perfect. It happens, right? Things blow up in your face. Things you don't plan for happen. It takes a lot of years. I've been doing this for 20 years, and things still happen to me that I don't plan for. The good news is I get better every time, right? So accountability is really important. Being accountable to your attendees, saying, hey, like, we get it. This might not have been the best event, but as you get better every year, it becomes, oh, what was not standard the year before or 3 years ago is now the standard, right? People come to expect a great event. So accountability is really important. And further than that, also, we're responsible for reinvesting in our events, in our staff, right? That's why I asked, hey, how many of you guys are students? Because at the end of the day, 10 years from now, I might not be the guy that's running the events, right? I don't want to be the guy in the trenches running the events. Funny story, I was just talking to Kevin earlier. I said, it's beautiful that you are able to come up here and talk to us and share your experience because you don't have to be in the trenches fighting the war downstairs to keep things going. So once again, it's progression. We need to progress. We can't do the same thing over and over again. We can't run the same events that we always do. We need to get better, right? So that's another thing. So all that said, how do we grow a world-class event? We need to be empathetic of all the people that are involved with these events, whether they're attendees, partners, or staff. And we need to be accountable for when things go wrong. Because if you take responsibility, people build that trust. They build that rapport. They know, hey, Vince didn't do good this time. He's going to do better next time. So I'm going to keep coming back, right? So when you build those things together, people start to trust you. You go, hey, every time I go to Electroclash, that's one of our events that we have, it's going to be the best experience because Vince cares, right? It's that players know that when they show up, they get the best player experience. They don't get random monitors that are unlabeled or they're all mixed performance. They get the best. When they come to my tournaments, they get PCs, which is what they all want to play on, right? And understandably, everyone's in a different space in their journey. Not everyone is prepared for that. But the last point I want to make about these events and how to build a world-class event is transparency. You need to have a conversation with your community, with your partners, and say, hey, we can do this, or we can't do this, and this is why. And that leads into my final point, was ask for help. There are tons of people who want to get involved with these esports as a whole. There's always someone looking to get involved and bring their skills to the table. So definitely ask for help. But transparency is huge, right? If you don't have a budget, just say you don't have a budget. What's the worst that's going to happen, right? It's like you can still build an event, right? It just won't have all the bells and whistles, but you'll get there, right? So being transparent is really important. So looping it all back, when we talk about this in the panel, how do we produce a world-class event? All those things together, it's number one, as Steve said, it's about your people, right? Whether they're attendees, staff, or otherwise, the people are what bring these events together. That's why we do events, it's the people, because we love the people, right? So keeping in mind, being empathetic, being accountable, being transparent, those are really the keys to building a world-class esports event. All the technical stuff aside, that's all homework that you guys can do at home and take time. I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm still learning every day. This is my first time delivering a keynote. I'm probably going to roast myself when I get home. But, I have to do this because this is personal development for me. I'm personally, very involved in growing this esports industry because it's the place that I love. It's what I love to do. Whether it be fighting games, that's my thing. I still do esports events for all different titles. But as a whole in this industry, as we kind of go through the journey of building world-class events, we need to really just take the time to stop, breathe, look at what we're doing. Does it make sense? And how are we doing it? Are we doing it in the right way that's going to be sustainable? Because Canada Cup 2018 is not sustainable. We had a huge event, blew a lot of money, but ultimately it gave nothing back to the community once it was gone. So for me, building a world-class event means when I'm gone, 20 years from now, 10 years from now, maybe next year, something happens to me, that event is going to live on. People are going to carry that torch, and I don't have to be, I'm just one step in that journey for everyone. So once again, before I close out, building a world-class event, I will really say is any one of you guys can do it. You just have to have the patience. So I've got a couple clips here, just someone who's really influential in my life growing up, watching films. I have these clips because I just want to show you the mentality that I think you have to build a world-class esports event. So this is a couple clips. I wish Gerald was here because this is literally from a channel that he quoted, Every Frame a Painting. It's about Jackie Chan, one of my idols and like someone that I looked up to growing up. And it's just like his mentality of how he produces his movies and why he does what he does. And that's really the key to excellence in building world-class esports events is having the mentality that you got to do what you got to do and you got to put the effort in and the work and not take compromises. So production, if you want to roll the first clip, and you can go right into the second one. All right, well, the clips aren't working, so that's okay. So the first clip is Jackie talking about, the most difficult scene that he's talking about that he's done. He's got a fan, and he throws that fan, and it flies out, and it comes back. So if you guys know anything about Jackie Chan, he does all his tricks.
The best you can,
live.
because the film live forever. No, because that day raining and the actor don't have time. I said, would you go to every theater to tell the audience? No, the audience see on the theater, good movie, bad movie. That's all.
So that second clip is literally what people look at. When you go out and you say, hey, you put on an event, people don't care what the process was. People care, did I have a good time or did I not have a good time? Am I going to come back? That's what they care about. You're not going to make excuses. You just got to put your work out there and trust the process. So if your processes are good and you treat your people good, all of it lines up. And that's what, to me, makes a world-class esports event. Awesome. Thank you much. That's it for me, and we'll chat more.
Once again, my name is Jennifer. I will be your host for this panel. Just a quick introduction to me. I've been in esports for about 7 years. Events have been my bread and butter, so I am super excited to host this.
Awesome. My name is Vincent Hui. Obviously, you listen to me spiel for a little while there, but I am, once again, the co-founder and owner of Incendium Gaming. We are a full-service esports providers, everything from tournament logistics through to broadcast production, marketing as well. We do a lot of consulting, which is new recently that we've added. And also, I am a professor for Mohawk College in Hamilton, Ontario, teaching media production currently, and taking my next journey in collegiate and academics. So lots to share there.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Kevin Dhir, the head organizer here behind Battle of BC and CEGIS. I run a company called Galint Gaming. I introed myself earlier. I hope y'all remember that, but nice to see everyone again.
Hi, everyone. I'm Spencer Clarke, COO and co-founder of DSA, Digital Sports Administration. We run tournaments and events across North America. You can find us at HCS, OWCS. We get contracted for a lot of different high-tier esports events across the world. We also run locally things in Toronto, across Canada, through CNE and other events. And we do everything from tournament ops to production and everything. So happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. So we'll start with the first question. What makes event organization so crucial to the esports industry?
Well, that question's pretty broad. I think there's a lot of different things that are important for running an event and making it operate, whether it's the team behind it, making sure that everybody's educated and knows their role, making sure that the logistics and everything's planned out beforehand, and operations is key. There's a lot of people who come to an event like this one and don't know the months and possibly years it took to get the event to operate like that. So many hands
to every theater to tell the
are
audience?
necessary to
The audience
make large-scale events happen. And just a hardworking team, work ethic, putting the time in. As Vince said earlier, sometimes you're running 17 hours in a day to like the day of or days before events to make sure that everything is running as smoothly. So when players and spectators come in, they can see, what they came to see or what they came to do, and have a smooth process in doing so.
I think one of the things that makes events so crucial and critical, maybe I'm biased as a guy who loves events, but I really do think events are at the core of esports because it's where we bring each other together, right? People come together around the events, they're a big spectacle, you get to see all your friends in person. Me personally, events have taken me around the world. I've made so many strong, great friendships at these events, and a lot of our community lives online, right? But the events in person especially, I think, are where the magic really happens. And it's cool because you can take a person who has no experience with esports or gaming, take them to a really exciting esports event just once. They can be a non-believer in gaming, and they might just think gaming is, kids in their basement playing video games all night. But you take them to one event, and they see it, like instantly. They see all these people in their element, in a place where they feel comfortable, and having a great time. So that's really why I love events and why I think they're so crucial to our scene. Brings people together, and it shows new eyes what esports is all about without having those people have to invest and entrench themselves so deeply in the scene. They just get to see it instantly why it's special.
Yeah, and I think it's on, right? So yeah, I think unique perspective from my part is I always hate this. I'm old, so back in the day when I was growing up playing in the arcades, we didn't have events, right? We didn't have esports wasn't a thing. So really, like, especially for this, incoming generation, even generations that came after me, these events are life-changing, right? They realize, hey, like, this is something, right? Especially now when we talk about the expanded world of esports, talking about, students in high schools and middle schools. I just had a conversation earlier, how important these events are to not just get people to play games, but from a social aspect, right? We all talk about, like, Kevin said, like, it's not just playing games at home in your basement. It's about building relationships, right? And I think that is the most understated part of building these events is giving people the opportunity to build relationships. But more from an industry standpoint, there's no esports without events. There are no esports without events. You can't create what we are as esports today without those events. So esports, like the events side of esports, it's foundational to who we are. It's part of our DNA, and it will always be part of who we are.
Yeah, and to add to that as well, I know for a lot of people when they first go into an event, and maybe they are a fan or not, but seeing the passion behind it, it took my breath away the first time I went to an esports event. And you're playing online in tournaments and you have your friend group or your team that you're dedicated to working with and getting better. But then to go to that atmosphere that you walk in, the lights are dark, you can see the main stage, and then you see what we like to call as the passion pit, which is everybody at your level working to try and make it to that main stage. That passion just fills, it fills that void of competitive competition, and like, you can strive to see where you want to be. And like, that's huge for live events.
Thank you all for that. So passion is something really strong and really unique with our esports community. So how have you guys adapted to kind of the differences between esports and other events? And can you kind of give any examples of some issues that might have come up? Or
I'll start with that. I always joke when I do a lot of consulting for entities that don't know what esports is, and they go, "Oh, how's this different from sports?" I'm like, it's that meme where it's the same thing. So there's a lot of shared struggles between sports entertainment and just esports in general. It's the same thing. Like, we're all making events, we all have the same struggles, and as kind of we are watching esports kind of explode and grow. We're finding a lot of the same issues as regular sports events, regular concerts. They have, limitations with their venues, limitations with equipment. So on that front, like, we share a lot. Is it different? Personally, I think it's the same. So even, coming from a academic professional development standpoint, I always tell my students, like, the skills that you learn in esports running events those are skills that you can take to any other industry. And yeah, you might have to learn a little bit, you might have to change it up, but ultimately you can be successful in other industries. You may be even bringing a perspective that is sorely needed to another industry. So, we're talking about events. It's like, how is this panel different from what we're doing downstairs? Like, yeah, in some ways, we look at this panel and we go, hey, easy mode, right? As if you're running tournaments, it's like, what do you mean I get to turn on the production and walk away for 45 minutes while these guys chat? But it's the same skill set, right? And we run into the same issues that you have, and it's just working through the process. So on that front, in terms of are there unique things that we have with esports? Absolutely, there's a ton of stuff. Let's not talk about the technical equipment. I'm sure Spencer, and you, Dhir, we deal with this all the time, right? Oh, the setup is lagging. But how's that different from, Steph Curry there's a video of Steph Curry going on the court and he's dribbling the ball, and all of a sudden he drops the dribble. You're like, this guy's a professional. Why is he dropping the dribble? And then he goes and he stands over the court and he goes, hey, there's something wrong with the court. He bounces the ball on it and he goes, hey, something's off. The ball is drifting for no reason, and they had to come and fix it. So are we seeing the same issues? Yes. Sports has X number of years that they've been developed, so they know that stuff, right? But it's at the core of it, it's the same issues that we have both in esports, just presented in a different format.
Yeah, I fully agree with everything Vince said there about it is all the same in terms of running things at their core. Some of the unique issues that I find that I've been facing in the esports side, especially with an event like this on Battle of BC, downstairs, we're expecting about 2,000 or so people in person, but I've got over 3 million unique viewers on our stream this weekend. And those people, most of them aren't paying a dime, right? Those are all free viewers, but they're so essential to the ecosystem. They are the fan base, they are the online community. But the stressful and unfortunate part is if something's wrong on the stream, those are also the first people to usually be complaining on the internet and saying our event sucks and all that kind of stuff. But so many resources go into that broadcast production. It is the face of our event. And so as an event organizer in the esports space, one of the unique challenges is how much we put in towards the in-person production versus the online. And you will see events that, fully max the online and don't really care about the in-person, or max the in-person and then they have a crappy stream. So it's really tough because in esports, we have so many different audiences, I guess, to appease, as well as so many different types of attendees. I was saying esports is a very open and accessible space for these kind of events, but that also means you have so many different types of attendees who have different interests, different priorities, and different things you need to take into account when you're putting on an event for them. So yeah, I've organized weddings, raves, birthday parties, tournaments for non-esports things, and I gotta say, it's pretty challenging, all the different minutia you have to worry about, because someone is going to complain about it.
Yeah, agree with both of you. I think that there's a lot of things that are similar between esports and other events. I'd say that a lot of people don't take into account the difference between live events and online events. When you're talking about sports games, nobody's playing, NBA on the court and then going home and playing NBA online in the same tournament, so challenging to bring these teams from nations across the nation or international, competing in different regions, and then flying them into, large scale events where you have language barriers, you have different types of things that, normal sports may have a little bit, but it's not at the same capacity as something that esports deals with, depending on the game. So another unique thing is we always speak about esports as a whole, but there's so many different games and each game has a different community. And so I think it's really important when looking at an event is saying, what's the community for this game and what do they care about compared to, an FPS game versus a fighting game versus a MOBA. They're different audiences, they're different communities, and they expect different things when they go to events online and in person.
CRT TVs, man. CRT TVs downstairs, all those tube TVs.
My back.
My back.
And just going back to my keynote, empathy, right? When we talk about all these different communities, we can't assume that they're all the same. Sometimes we make that mistake, unfortunately, right? We have the assumption that they're going to be the same, but really, and that's something that's super beautiful about esports, is that it has such an ability to bring people together, and it's different for every game, right? We do tons of research into like demographics of each game, and something that I think, I don't want to speak for you, Kevin, but I think that Smash and the fighting game community as a whole really bring to the table that I think even within esports, a lot of other titles need to really work on is the diversity. That's huge for us. And I always joke, like when people talk to me about like, oh, what's the fighting game community about? Yeah, it's poverty esports, bro. It's like everyone in FGC is poor, which is like, it's a joke, but it's like, the stereotype is a stereotype because it's partially true. But like, that's the great beauty of esports is there's something for everyone, but at the same time, we should really strive to open the doors for more people to come in.
Yeah, esports is very, very accessible, as we all know. So as similar as sports and esports are, we notice that sports gets a lot of support. So as event organizers and all of that, how do you think we can get more support for the esports scene and events and all of that to grow the communities?
More events like this, more events to educate people, talking with local and provincial, international, national governments, communities within those local cities and seeing what they want and, just education, honestly. Local sports teams and stuff like that, we always see it from our side because we're, as long as we've been here, we're still in our infancy. And a lot of these sports have been played for years and years, and they didn't grow overnight. They had to start with local grassroots, and I think it's something that we are doing here and across the country and nation is building those local grassroots scenes to the point where we do get recognition from larger audiences. As we all grow up and our kids grow up and whoever, we got to say, like, we are the first few generations of esports. It's only going to grow from here, and we, as much as we like to take large steps in this industry to be at that level and to be seen, things take time, and you have to understand that we all want it to grow. Everybody's looking at the same end goal, and it's just about making sure you're taking the right steps to get there, to be seen and to be supported.
Yeah. I think that getting more eyes from the mainstream on esports is really important because they do still generally think of this as some niche activity that's just for the very hardcore sweats. But, an event like this, especially, I'm trying really hard to increase and widen our audience. So, any family can walk in here and have a good time still. Anybody can see what it's all about. And I think that's what esports is going to continue to need, is really trying to push mainstream audiences to know that this is just a fun, great time space where tens of thousands of people one day eventually could be in these kind of spaces.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take this in a little bit different direction just because this is an opportunity where I have a lot of fellow industry peers here. I think one of the biggest ways and the things that we have to work on and being a little bit critical of ourselves, which is really important as an industry, is, how do we get support? Number one, it's like, let's talk esports as an industry as a whole. We all went through the dark ages. COVID was great for us, right? Because online video games, everyone went on. COVID, coming out of COVID was kind of bad for us, in terms of, working with partners. Because like I said, earlier, partners are a big part of our industry, right? All the different brands that want to get in. One of the things that I found that I think as a whole in esports that we need to work on is bringing value to our partners. Right? So when we ask for things and we're asking for things like equipment and money, we need to make sure that we are delivering on our end, on whether it be things like key performance indicators, right? It's like we have attainable goals that we can reach and we're not overselling ourselves. And that's a big challenge in esports I think as a whole is like, we're a really fast growing industry. It's great. We have access to huge numbers online, which is fantastic. But just because you have access to the numbers doesn't mean you have the power to engage them. Right? And it's something that I learned a lot over the last few years is, when you're bringing people in, they have to leave with a good experience. The more people that you have that you bring into this industry and this community that come in and they don't have a good experience, those are eyes that you are going to be very hard fought to get them back. So it's really important as a baseline, and I see this because this is such a unique opportunity to get so many people industry together. I think the big discussion here is, creating a baseline for, esports operators to say, hey, like when we interact with our industry, we should at least have a guide, this base level of response, right? So, in terms of getting, just from a business standpoint from partners, it's like treat your partners good. Treat them like gold. Don't treat them like they're just another guy that they're just sponsoring us. Those to me, my partners, they're homeboys, right? Or they're homegirls, right? Like these are people that I consider to be family, because when you come through for me, I'm going to come through for you. So that's a big thing for me is when I go to partners and I ask for stuff, usually I don't lead with, hey, I need help with this. It's like, hey, like I've got this thing coming up. Gee, is there any opportunity that you guys have that like I can help scratch your back? That's really big. So from that side, how do we get more support is definitely treating people good. But as Spencer said, a big one is education. I'll use an example. I have a client that I'm working with, the YMCA of Hamilton Burlington, and having those opening conversations with them about what esports is and why they should get involved. Especially as the YMCA, their big push is getting people to be active, right? That's what they're all about. And they go, why would we want to do video games? Like, how do we get the kids active with video games? And I'm like, well, it's a gateway, right? It's a gateway to speak the language. And as much as it is where we need to educate people to speak our language of esports, we need to educate ourselves to speak the, quote unquote, the normies, right? That don't understand, but we need to speak business language and understand that there's a transaction there that we need to take care of each other. And that's why it was such a big part of my keynote is taking care of each other is really important, because if we're going to build something big, we need everybody to be on board and everybody to be on the same page.
Great insights from all of you. I'm hearing that it's patience and understanding within your own families. So I know that some people here are educators. So on the topic a bit about education, what is something that you kind of wish that either the general public or the people involved in your events kind of knew?
I'll start with that. Definitely, it's more than a game. Let's start with that, right? It's more than just sitting in front of your computer at home. And you know what? It's really easy to fall into that perception of esports of like, hey, it's just kids playing video games at home. Yeah, they can earn money. Or even, esports as a whole, we have a problem where we kind of look at ourselves and we're just about the competitive. And I think over time, as our industry continues to develop, we need to really realize that we are an entertainment business revolving around video games, and the language needs to change, right? Esports, it's cool. It's like a super cool hook word. It's like, oh, competitive video games, that's super cool. But the reality of it is our industry is so much bigger than that, right? When we talk about storytelling and what this team does, and it's the content creators, they're a part of an ecosystem. When we talk about esports, they're really a small part of esports, right? And how we look at them. But the reality is, from a video game perspective and an entertainment perspective, it's much bigger. And when you start to speak the language that way, people understand. They go, oh, wow, like this plays in our movies. It's like, yeah, there's a new Marvel Rivals game that's really big. Why is it big? I don't understand video games, but I understand Thor and X-Men and Wolverine, right? Well, that's why it's popular. So when you start having those ways to relate to what we do, like the changing of the conversation is really important to really educate people that this is like, yes, esports is one part of the video game culture and the video game industry, and it's really cool. But when you look at it from a skills perspective, all those skills that you do, once again, going back to that idea of the skills that you have in esports apply everywhere else, that really changes. Once they see that and they see an event in person, they're like, oh wow, like, it's the same lighting guys that do the NHL, tournament, NHL game on a Wednesday night, right? So it's the same skill set. Then it starts to click and they're like, hey, I get it.
It's a spectator sport. You have to play into the entertainment value. As we were saying, like those online people who are watching the streams and broadcasts have to be entertained with that broadcast. If you have, 15-minute timers between each games with no content or filler, as we call it, it's gonna look like, oh, I'm here for, the 30-minute game and then I'm gonna leave and go to some other broadcast. Or if you're at the venue and you're just waiting with nothing to do between matches and there's this whole stage that's not being utilized, you're missing out and you're not engaging your audience. And it's going to affect, as Vince said, like people coming back. You want people to be engaged. You want people to continuously come back and want to view. They want to say, there's an event this weekend. I'm sitting at home with it on the TV or on my computer or wherever, and I'm watching because I'm invested. I care about those players. I care about the teams. I care about who's winning this tournament, who's winning this event, where's my favorite team placing in this, and all very important things for growth and for just esports in general.
Okay, great. So we will move on to kind of our next topic. So we all know that Canada is still a bit of a baby industry for esports, and all kind of countries have their different strengths and weaknesses. From what you all can see, what are kind of some of Canada's strengths and weaknesses?
One of the things that is actually surprisingly challenging about Canada is just how big this country is. There's so much of Canada, and it's really important to me that, all these provinces and all these people across Canada do get the representation that they so deserve. And so, yeah, this physical geography does make it challenging, which is why I'm so extra grateful that the folks who came out from as far as like Ontario, but we don't have too much further east of Ontario, unless there's anybody here from the Maritimes or further east. But yeah, that's a challenge, right? It's hard to have a Canadian esports industry summit unless we can bring together all these voices. So that's one of the big unique challenges here. One of the strengths, though, is I think that in each province I can identify different movers and shakers, and we have a lot of people who are movers and shakers in this scene who are really excited and passionate, and they're all people who are down to be collaborative, and it's not a, hey, I'm trying to be the best in Canada and I'm kicking you out from this. It's we're all working together to make Canada the best place it can be, and in the United States, at least, from working with various orgs there, it is a lot more cutthroat. They do have a lot more of the, this is my business and you doing well means my business is doing less well and I'm losing those opportunities. But right now, the cool thing is across Canada, I get the community sentiment that we are growing this pie and we're making this a bigger and bigger and stronger industry because it really is in its nascency here. Yeah,
Canada's a big country, but small population, and I think we get overlooked for a lot of things. There's cities across this country that I think would be great for major and grassroots esports that are still growing and need, nurturing. They need to be brought to the attention of the international community and shown that, like, why is there a reason you should come to Calgary or go to Edmonton or Montreal or any city across Canada, and what makes your city unique to whatever game you want to go there. We've been having a lot of conversations with cities who are like, we want major events here. How do we get it here? And me and my business partner Celeste have been breaking it down that you need to nurture the community you have already and foster that so that a lot of these tourism bodies want to bring people in, but you need the people there already to help supplement those events and gauge interest before events will happen in cities across Canada. Another thing is, again, we're in our baby infancy stage still, and learning who to work with, communicating with local partners or people that you're learning about, and finding out who's the right partners and people to work with and have the opportunity to learn from. Again, just revolves back around education of everybody involved in our country and building it up from there. A good foundation.
Without sounding like I'm beating a dead horse a little bit, because I know we're always bombarded by political stuff, but definitely invest local, buy local, Canada first. Sorry, it's a terrible joke. But honestly, I think a big part of it is definitely like investing local. Like I see a lot of bigger events, and it's funny. I travel a lot. We all travel a lot. We see the same faces, and we all know they're not from there, right? So, and that's like, as cool as that is a fundamental issue with our industry. Is that, as Spencer said, it's like, we really should be prioritizing putting the local folks first, right? And training them and giving them the skills to do that same level of production. Obviously, there are going to be niche things where it's like, yeah, we really need to fly in someone to do that, or like we really need that extra level of like video production. We need a Gerald, right? We don't have someone here local to do. That's a bad example because you've got Eric from Action. But stuff like that, it's like, as I got into education, it's like, yes, we need to when I say we need to reinvest in our people, we need to look at who's the movers and shakers locally and be like, hey, I'm going to give you guys the opportunity. I know there's a need. There's always a business need for the big lights, the big guys that come in and bring a lot of eyes to your event. But it's really important for us to build those kind of back doors for people who don't get those opportunities to work at that level, to give them that experience. Because what happens is we kind of get into this cycle of, hey, I'm going to bring in the best and the brightest. Great. But now you're doing that every single time, right? You're spending that money, extra money, when it's like, you know what? We need to bring in the best and brightest because we need it. Business case, we have to have it, right? But I'm going to put, my 2 guys that I use on the day-to-day for all my local events, I'm going to put them in that team to shadow them, to learn what they're doing, so we can figure out what the secret sauce is and start doing that in-house. And I think one of the things I see from a lot of tournament organizers that, coming through the years and having worked with, is that a lot of them are not necessarily looking at it that way. We're always kind of in a survival mode, right? If you're in survival mode, you're not building, right? You're just getting by, right? So we need to really start looking at esports as building foundation. And when I say reinvesting, like I talked about earlier, I don't want to be the guy, and Kevin, I love you. I'm sure you don't want to be the guy that's down there in the trenches in 5 years from now. You want to be the guy that's like, oh, I'm taking out X partner to lunch and my event is running itself because I've got a great team that has all that experience. They don't need me anymore, right? They don't need me to make, unless, like I said, I was joking earlier, it's like, unless the venue is burning down, don't call me, right? And that's really, as an industry, we need more of those. So we need to, get our heads out of the trenches and really start to go, change from that survival, making sure we're paying the bills. Okay, we can do that now. We have a system that does it. We're training people who can take over those functions. And now guys like us that have the experience can go out and we can sell. Right? That's something that I've really fallen in love with in esports. For me, is like, I don't spend nearly as much time as I do organizing events as I now go out and have those conversations with partners, being like, how can we get you involved? Like, what's kind of like going to scratch your back, and let's make something really cool out of this. And I think for me, once again, like, that's the biggest thing that I need to see, like, personally, is like, invest local, build your grassroots, invest, definitely like give opportunities for those local groups to gain that experience. And I know it's scary as tournament organizers, as business owners, we don't want to create our own competition. That's scary. But the reality of it is like, if you're building a good event, if you've got a good product, if you've got a great service, it's going to speak for itself. People who like you and you grow and maintain those relationships, you're not going to lose that business unless you really screw it up. So for me, I don't look at it that way. I don't care who's out there doing stuff. You're all doing great work. What I care about is that I'm better. In the nicest way possible.
I just want to touch on everybody has their own education or how they want to grow the community. But I think a difference between us or myself and Vince is that I love being in the trenches, and I think it's a great way to teach people, show what you can do, show the work ethic you have, and find the people around you, whether it's local or wherever you're working, show them what it takes to make it in whatever you want to do. Work ethic's huge. It's something that when we're working events and there's new people that we're trying to see how they fit with our team, we're looking at your work ethic. We're right there in the trenches with you. We can see the day-to-day from what you're doing, and if you are killing it, we're there to tell you. We're not just hearing it from a third party or whatever, or a manager between us. I love being in the trenches. I love seeing the players. I love being on stage. I love being at the table with partners, but for me personally, it's always going to be a mixture of getting in there, being a part of it, and helping that event be the best it can be.
Do you have to work really hard to scale yourself? At least for me, it's really hard for me to get myself out of the trenches personally, because I love it. But also, all these players come to me with their problems. They all know me as the guy to complain to about, hey, my seating isn't correct, my bracket looks weird, hey, I need X, Y, Z. So also just helping grow my teams to be more aware to them and them to be aware to my team. Like, look, man, I'm not the guy to talk to about this anymore. And it's taken many years to grow through that. But yeah, I had a very keen team member, Arnaud, who was one of my best friends as well. And he's the one who really pushed me to, Kevin, there's some things that only you can do. There's so many other people who can handle these parts of the project, but you really need to focus on these things the best you can and scale yourself out of all these other things. And that's, I think, the only way I'm here right now, for example.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point because, you know, you get to a point where you need to look at, and when we talked about value in the keynote, it's like everyone brings a different value to the table, right? And as organizers, it's really hard because we get into that mindset, it has to be me. Because if I trust anyone else to do it, they're going to screw it up. Right? And we've all been down that road. I'm sure like between the three of us, we definitely have been down that road. But that's the beauty of it. When you finally find someone that you can work with, that you've spent time and effort to invest in, and they now bring the same value that you brought, as an organization, like you've become double what you were before, right? And that's, you know, from going back to my story about Canada Cup, that's my biggest lesson was like, when I built Incendium, when I started it, in the ashes of Canada Cup, I said to myself, I'm never doing this by myself again. This is crazy. Like, I'm a psychopath. Like, I'm not doing this again. So I went out, I found two really great partners. One of my partners has outgrown us. He's moved on to bigger, better things. He's now working big events like Evo. So like, I'm happy for him in terms of the fact that it's like, it's progression, right? And it's like, whether those people are with you or not, you should expect them to outgrow you. As mentors, as leaders, you want the people that you work with to outgrow you eventually. You want to say, hey, you know what? I think your growth path is bigger than us. I'm supporting where you're going. And that's really the beauty of like owning a business and creating an organization is that, and it's hard because it's scary because you don't want to lose your best people. Right? But the reality is when your mindset is, I'm going to invest in these people, they are going to grow beyond me, it changes things because now like people come to me and they go, hey Vince, you're great. And I'm like, yeah, but it's like, you know, there's 30 other guys that work with me that are great too. Like you can go to them, like my value maybe is spent better on something else, but now I have the option and the availability to go out and chase the things that I think are valuable. Whereas I'm not in the trenches worrying about what the next fire is. And you always will be, keeps you up at night. But at the end of the day, you know, it's really, really beautiful when someone comes back to you and they talk about their time with you in front of your peers or maybe their clients. And they're like, yeah, it was like working with Vince, like that gave me, I learned everything that I know now and I'm successful because everything I learned there, it was part of my journey. And those clients, they look at you like, yeah, we want to invest in this guy because he's going to create great people and great events.
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about growth and different kind of ecosystems within these sports. Over the last 10 years, we'll say, we've seen our own esports change, our ecosystem change a lot, where a lot of the younger generation is coming in and kind of replacing a lot of us. So what is kind of, from an events point of view, like how can some of those younger students kind of get involved and help out and get that training? Because there isn't a whole lot of like formal education they can get.
I think for me, the biggest thing I tell young people who come to me, high schoolers or early university students, hey, how can I start a career in esports? I think the coolest thing about esports, we've said this word so many times, about the accessibility of it. The accessibility to being an event organizer in esports is also really, really open. You don't need much at all to start hosting any kind of event, like an online event. The resources you need, you literally just need yourself, your time, and a PC to host an online tournament, right? So it's easier than ever for you to just get that hands-on experience. That's what I started doing back when I was 14, 15, and that's what I encourage anyone else. If you're coming to me to try and start a career in esports, but you're not already like passionately keen on doing stuff in esports, there's so many ways you can already get involved and be doing things. And so that's what I tell all these folks. And it's really cool to me to have seen through an event like Battle of BC over the years, all the folks who volunteer on our team, who I've gotten to watch grow over these 7 iterations. And they'll volunteer out of Battle of BC, then they'll start hosting their own local tournament, a weekly, a bi-weekly, a monthly, whatever it is. And that'll grow as well. And those people will grow. So that's what I would say to the younger generation is like, look, if you want to be doing it, there's nothing stopping you from going and starting and doing it now.
Yeah, Exactly that. I mean, I remember 10 years ago going to Steve at Memory Express asking for $50 so I could do a Halo LAN and just have people come out to the Microsoft store or whatever. And the biggest thing for those people wanting to get involved is when I say work ethic and passion, I mean it. This industry is still so small, and as much as we want it to grow, there are limited opportunities, and the people who will continue to get more opportunities are the people that put the time in. And regardless if that's your own little events to show that you're putting effort in, there's only so many spots in large events and stuff like that. And currently, even with this growing number of people being a part of it, or collegiate schools having opportunities for you to, get hands-on production or tournament ops, you need to put yourself in a position where you're willing to do those opportunities to put on a resume or whatever, so that if we're looking to do an event at DSA and we need some extra help and your name comes through, I can see that you've worked with certain schools or people that I know, or have done a bunch of things for this specific game that I would see value in bringing you on and seeing where you're at. And then if there's work ethic there, and I can see that you're dedicated to putting the time in. Esports isn't a 9-to-5 job, especially for events. You need to be able to say, I'm showing up at 7 a.m. I have to build 20 tables and put out 80 PCs, and this all has to be done before noon. Oh, by the way, power's not coming till 7 p.m. tonight because they're delayed somewhere else, and we have to stick it out and build around until that happens. The strongest succeed in anything, and I wish everybody puts the amount of effort and passion in to get to where they want to be. So yeah, just work hard and prove it, not only to yourself, but to others that you're willing to put the time in.
Just one quick add-on to this is about one of the things I also would tell these young people is get used to bad things happening and being able to work around them, and also no's. Like, I've heard no so many times in my esports journey, and if I took a no personally and stopped there, I wouldn't be here, right? So get used to hearing a lot of no's. If somebody doesn't care about what you're doing, doesn't believe in it, don't take it personally. Just go to the next person who hopefully does, right? Because they're not the one who's going to determine if you're going to succeed or not, because they don't believe in it, right? So young people, it's okay if people say no. Put yourself out there, and putting yourself out there again the next time is the most important thing. And that's why we are even here existing. We've dealt with the no's, we've dealt with the fires, we've dealt with the failures.
Yeah, definitely. Straight up pull up. That's all I ask from people. So I'll straight up say it. Like, when people come to me and they go, "Hey, Vince, I want to work with you," I always bring on the people that show up to all my events, whether they're attendees or whether they're there to help or offering. If you're there and I see you all the time, that's the person I'm giving an opportunity to. Funny story. I'll tell a story about a gentleman by the name of Will. He does a lot of production for me, and the story behind him was at the time we had Waves Gaming, rest in peace. It's a big venue in Toronto that we used to have, and I remember his story about how he got involved with Incendium. He would be the guy to run Smash streams, and all of a sudden he just started showing up to my tournaments. I don't do Smash, right? It's like fighting game, and he's just like hanging out in the production room. I'm like, who is this kid? I'm like, he's just randomly here. And somehow it became, can I just Vince, I need a break. Can you press buttons for a minute? And then now, 4 years down the road, he's primarily in charge of all our production. He does Electric Clash. He's worked for Red Bull Kumite New York. He's now traveling, working for events. So things like that, like straight up, he's like, the reason why I got the opportunities I did is because I showed up. Right. And whether it was, I didn't ask as I wanted to do a specific thing, whatever was there that needed to be done, I did it. Right. So those are the type of people, with Incendium at my company, we kind of have an unwritten policy. We tend to hire people who show up to our events, whether they're attendees or helpers. They just come up, they always want to be there. They just want to be in our presence. And, for those who have ever worked with me, you're in the inner circle when we break bread. When we have dinner, it's almost a superstition for us. It's like, you're not official till we have a meal together and it gets paid for. So for those who work with me and haven't had dinner with me, it's coming, don't worry. But that's it's a big part of of when I look at people, and it's not just the work ethic, it's just do the minimum, show up, right? Be there, right? Because that's the biggest thing. The scariest thing you can have as an organizer is when one of your resources that you trust and you rely on doesn't appear, right? That's super scary. And I've had that happen at the highest levels, right? I had a stream producer not appear at one of the Canada Cups, just straight up didn't fly in, missed his flight, didn't say anything. So it's happened before. So on that front, yeah, just if you want to get involved, put yourself out there. Don't be afraid. You know, as event organizers, we're not going to bite you. We're nice people. But definitely like put yourself out there and just show up. Like whatever the game it is that you enjoy. Maybe you just don't have any specific game, but you love esports. When we hire, we always end up hiring the faces that we're familiar with, right? So definitely make an effort, be present. That's how you get into this industry. And it's a lot of this industry, yes, its merits are important. A lot of it is who you know.
Yeah, sorry, just to add one more thing. While you're trying to find these jobs and careers, don't be afraid to try other things. Skills outside of esports translate into additional opportunities. Before I was ever doing this full time, I was an electrician, and I did that for 10 years before, right out of high school. And the whole time I was passionate about esports and doing other things, but it taught me hard work. It taught me work ethic. It taught me how to plan projects and organize with other parties and individuals. So don't be afraid to go out, get other jobs while you're doing this, and take the experience there and learn to translate that into other opportunities. It's so valuable.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for that. I guess it's time to open up the floor for any questions from the audience.
So you mentioned, you touched before on like providing value to your sponsors and partners, and sponsorships are an important part in event organizing, right? So, and also you mentioned that some organizers focus more heavily on the online aspect, others more on the like event, like in-person activations. So how do you provide, or how do you report that success to your partners after the event is done, especially on the in-person activations? Because like online, like the stream is a little bit easier to track, but how do you provide that success story?
I'll go real quick on this one, since I'm thinking about these things actively, as I have a lot of partners to report to. I always provide partners with a post-event report, and in that post-event report, I make sure I have proof of every activation that we did for them, photos, videos, whatever I can, make sure I track those all. Partners really want to know who was at the event, so I make sure I'm tracking all the key demographic data, put that out to them afterwards, any verbatims, any examples on things like that. Yeah, just really proof that what we were saying we were going to do, we did it, and it went really strong, and showing that people really appreciated what they did. So, yeah.
I would definitely agree with that. It's a whole process, right? It starts with sales, right? What I was saying earlier is like, don't oversell yourself, right? You know your numbers. As an organizer, you know your numbers. Don't kid yourself. You have a good idea of what you have on the table, and what I have seen in the past is just like people are just like inflating their numbers for inflating numbers, but whether it's a sales pitch or not, you know what your numbers are, right? So when you create your KPIs, your key performance indicators, don't sell something you can't deliver, or you're taking a bet. Sometimes, that's business. Sometimes you take a risk, right? And it's like, if you win, it pays out big. If you lose, it's like, it could be bad forever, right? So on that front, when you talk about the difference between online and in person, online, it's all about the stream, right? It's easy. You go on Twitch, and you go on YouTube and your socials, and you export all your stuff and you have a report. One thing I will say that's been really successful for me is sense of urgency when creating these reports after your event. The faster you do it, the more in mind your event is with your client. I know there are events that I've been out there where it's like they take 3 months to do the report, and by that time your client's forgotten about your event. They're like, I can't remember what was good about that event, right? So definitely, like, there's challenges on both sides. Online, that's the front. Like, the value of online engagement can't be understated, but it's much hard. In my opinion, it's much harder to prove. Whereas like an in-person activation and providing value, it's like, hey, I've got the great videos of people like using the product or shots of, photos of the attendees using your product. And I feel like it's almost reversed. Like during COVID, the online was big because that was the only outlet. But when we came out of COVID, all of a sudden the value of online decreased, not just because obviously people like in person, but they saw that they weren't getting the engagement that they want. They were getting the numbers, people were seeing the stuff, but your actual engagement and turnover rate on online activations was decreased significantly. And now what you're seeing is like, companies are coming back out. They really want to do the in-person activations. And it's really important for you to kind of like be very transparent. Once again, going back to my keynote, transparency is important. Don't oversell yourself. And of course, just be transparent about what you're delivering. This is the specific thing. Be very specific with clients, because especially with partners, they float. They tend to float. They have cool ideas that come across, and all of a sudden the idea that they have is no longer the idea that you sold them, right? So it's important to continually have those conversations, build those relationships, and make sure that everyone's on the same page. Heck, even if you have that conversation every day and go out for lunch every day just to keep it fresh, absolutely do so. But definitely like sense of urgency on delivering, your deliverables and your reports is really key.
Yeah, we've said it a couple times about education. Before you even like lock in a contract and they're telling you what they want, make sure it's something that's attainable. A lot of people want the world, and sometimes with either the budget or what the demographic is, really, you're the expert in the event you're selling to them. And you need to be honest with them, be upfront. Sometimes, they may say, well, okay, I'm not interested, but at least they're not going to go away from the event disappointed that, 20,000 people didn't go to your event that was $1,000 budget. It's all about just educating, making sure that you guys are aligned before anything's up, that this is what's possible, this is what we might do. And, it's always better to be modest and, go above and beyond. When you hand that report in and it did better than you were expecting and the client's happy because it looks like it went above and beyond, that's better stats than being like, we're only 50% of the participation that you promised and whatever. So just, be educated in what you're actually selling, and then make sure that you're educating them along with it.
Yeah, and another thing that I like to do, just kind of from a business standpoint, is, it's okay to say no. Clients will come to you with all sorts of things, and you as a business owner know what you can deliver, and the client is asking for something you can't do. Don't be afraid to say no, because what will happen is that client will go to another person or business that's doing the same thing you're doing, and they'll come with the same ask, and 9 times out of 10, they don't get it. And what happens? They come crawling back. And now you can be like, hey, by the way, that cool idea that you wanted that we can actually we could do other things for, that's now more expensive. So you go somewhere else, it's cheap, but you come back later, it's more expensive. But on that front, it's very much so like knowing what you can deliver and creating that unspoken contract of like, hey, if at any point in this conversation we don't feel like we can do what you can do, and there's no hard feelings, it's just, hey man, we can't do what you want and we don't feel like this is a good fit. That's one of my favorite things to say in sales. It's like, sometimes I turn clients down. I've done it before. There's definitely some events that we've been involved with in prior years that we're no longer involved with. And it's the conversation's not like, oh, I don't like you guys. It's just not a good fit, right? I can't do what you want and you can't deliver what I need to do it. I definitely suggest like there's other people that are great out there that you could try. And I encourage you to go. Because as a business person on the strict business side and being a little bit slimy, it's like I know what I can provide, and I know there's not too many companies out there that can do it for what I provided at, and those clients ultimately always calling back.
Awesome. Is there any more questions?
I have 2. One goes into the other.
Okay.
Going Vince, Kevin, Spencer. I couldn't help but notice you all have beautiful heads of hair. Are you sure you run events?
Yeah, I've been around for a long. I definitely have battle damage. It definitely is. It's no different than any other regular business. You have things that keep you up at night. That's just how it is. You will sit. There are nights when you go to bed and you'll just sit and ruminate for hours and hours, and it just that's just it is. But the reality of it is once again going back to what I said at the you can get better. You can be better, right? So you shouldn't worry about what's in front of you. You should yes problem solve, but also be like, hey, okay, I made this mistake this time. I'm not going to do it again. And when you really get into the rhythm of like improving, and definitely like once again. My favorite thing is I offload, right? I have an incredible business partner that is just like, he does more and more every year. And my goal when I started my company, I said to myself, I'm gonna do this company. This is my last shot at making it in esports. I'm gonna do two things. I'm either gonna make $1 million and retire, which I haven't done yet, or I'm going to get to the point where I'm comfortable and I'm going to give the business to my partners because they're all younger than me. And when I pick my partners, I specifically pick partners that I felt were going to be in this industry for a long time, and I built my business for them. Right. And if I said, hey, the other one was like, hey, if I'm 40 and I still feel happy about what I'm doing, I love what I'm doing and it's not burdening the rest of my life, I'm going to keep doing it. So the good news is I'm 40 this year. I'm still going to be here for a long time. And I love this business. And it's been really great because this industry's been giving back a lot in the recent years. So it feels like, how do I keep the hair on? I just stay very focused, be really realistic. Obviously, I didn't make $1 million, but the reality of it is my wife's happy, I'm happy doing what I do. Those are the most important things to me, and most importantly, I can elevate people around me, and that's what I really care about. I want to see other people that work with me be successful, and life's been giving me wins like the last 3 years since I started Incendium. It's been win after win after win.
For me, first and foremost, Finesse Stride. So thank you to Finesse Stride for helping keep this beautiful hair. But on top of that, I mean, I'm surprised the hair is staying in there. This past year and a half of being full-time all in on this has been a lot harder than anything I've ever done in my life so far. And I've done a couple of pretty challenging things. So for me, it's making sure that I do take care of myself is really important. The past couple of months, since January, like going into this year when Battle BC really has been in high gear and CEGIS in high gear, is making sure I take care of my own well-being. So working out regularly, eating good, and just, the normal things that can get lost in the mix when you're really stressed about an event. But everybody's there when you're an event organizer where you are up at night and these things are... It's not a 9 to 5 was said earlier, and it really isn't. It's a 24/7 until your event's done, and even after your event's done for like a week or two at least, it's still on your mind, top of mind as you have all that wrap up and finish up stuff. So it's not easy, genuinely, being an event organizer because it does take so much of you until you're at the level of Vince where you have an army that you really can fully hands off and trust shit's not going to go down. You do invest a lot of yourself into you. But hopefully it shows, and for me at least, it's all worth it because during the weekend it's a great time, and just seeing the fruits of my labor, all of these months of hard work, seeing it the weekend of things going according to plan and things happening, it makes it all worth it, and it's why I'm insane enough to do it again every year.
Before Spencer gets started, I need to know your secret of what are you feeding yourselves at DSA that makes you work like androids?
2 hours of sleep a night, max. No, I keep the sides short because I'm 30 and have salt and pepper hair on the sides. It's not falling out, but it is turning white. That could be from the kid, though. Honestly, hard to say which one. But between the kid at home and the baby, which is our company. Stress is always going to be a thing. Stress management is important. I say that, but I am not good at it. We do a lot of problem solving in this business when things don't work out or you're waiting on things. But just luck, I guess. Genes. That's what I got blessed with. My dad used to, go like this and be like, look into the future. But unfortunately, I haven't had that future yet. So
I just want to say, in my 20 years of working esports, and And I'm kind of glorifying you and Celeste a little bit. It's rare to meet people who work as hard as you guys do. And it really, for me, it's really inspirational to see you guys put the number of hours that you guys do in. And I could tell that you guys have a lot of passion. So yeah, like just on that front, like whatever it is you guys are doing, please share it with me because I don't have that kind of energy right now.
I just try to keep up with Celeste. If you guys haven't met Celeste, she's my business partner. She's the co-owner of DSA, a really great friend of mine. Blessed to be able to run digital sports administration or DSA with her. She is the hardest worker I've ever met, and yeah, I just try to keep up. And sometimes we get less sleep, but like we were talking about earlier, it's important to have reliable partners, reliable people that you can trust. And Celeste, for me, is that other half that, if I'm busy doing something, I can rely on her to get whatever's needed done and vice versa. So, yeah, just keep good people around you and work hard. And maybe you'll have hair like me. I don't know.
There's one more thing that was really important for me to learn and accept as a lesson in my growing up as an event organizer, and that was just stop stressing about things you can't change or control, right? There's so much shit that's going to go wrong, but can you change it? Can you actually can you do anything that is going to change the situation? And if the answer is no, then why are you worrying about it at all, right? That's a really important one that I wish young me knew more, that older me, hopefully, I accept.
And I guess the second part I was asking is more for the students in the room. What mentorship opportunities do you all have available currently?
My lines are always open, and all my events have opportunities for anybody to get involved in generally. I'm hoping to build on some more formal workways that you can do more longer term. Hey, you can be working and doing stuff with us as interns or co-ops and things like that is part of the longer term goal for me. But right now, my door is always open. My email's always there, and I almost never say no to. I've said no a couple times for different reasons, but my door is open. And if you're just as excited as I am and willing, then I'm here for you.
Pull up, number one, but I know because all of you are West Coast, you probably don't come out to Toronto so often. But best place to beat land is in my DMs. So definitely reach out. I'm gonna do this for my students because I know they're gonna go back and watch this. Make sure you hit me up on LinkedIn. Like my post because it helps me. But please, once again, don't be afraid. Put yourself out there. Get in my DMs. Message me on LinkedIn, Discord, Twitter, whatever you want to reach out on me. Hit me up. Let me know. Hey, like, what opportunities are there? Because if you don't ask, you don't know, right? So definitely reach out to me if there's something that slot you guys into. We do a lot of online tournaments, so 100%. That's the first step is just to reach out and ask. If you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah, Celeste and I are always looking for hardworking people. We do events across North America and are always looking for either locals or people that we know we can rely on to fly out to events. We don't have, per se, a mentorship program. One of the things learning esports ourselves and with personal experiences is that we don't want people to work for free. And so the people that we do hire, we will train and give our knowledge to them at the right times when opportunities present themselves. But you can always send an email to either of us or reach out through LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever. And if we have a position, we usually open up like a Google form or something and go through people. And if somebody keeps applying and we see that they're dedicated or we've seen them at events and they've come and shook in our hand or whatever, we're more than likely going to be like, oh yeah, I remember that person, and give them an opportunity. Everybody deserves a chance. It's just whether you make the opportunity happen yourself, really.
All right, awesome. Okay, we have time for one quick question. Yeah, go for it.
I was wondering if you could speak a little bit on the decision-making process from taking an online event to in-person. If you have like a regular event that you run online, how do you decide if it should be an in-person event, when, and kind of what the first steps are to make that happen? Do you try to attach yourself to something like Gamescom or DreamHack, or do you just go for it from scratch on your own, or basically the thought process behind taking something that's been strictly online to in-person?
We do a lot of online stuff. Basically, the best thing is if you've built that community online and have the opportunity where you're starting to think maybe I can do something in a live event, maybe not directly taking that brand that you've created online, but like creating like a secondary event or like building it out, just building it out to be like, okay, we have these online events. You have the opportunity now to test your skills live, and naming it something else where it's still under the same umbrella, but it's something new. Once you've created a brand for something, to make changes to that, even if it goes from online to live, can really affect that brand that you've created, because it can say, oh, well, that's not what this is. This was an online event. But if you say, hey, like during your online broadcast, we have an announcement. Here's an exciting opportunity for you guys to participate live. Now you've created a secondary brand or a secondary event that is still tied together, but it's new. Knowing that the brand of your events is really important, and that's what people get to know and are used to engaging with. So I guess to answer your question, just making sure you're not going against the brand that you've created, but building it up a step while keeping it online, adding like a live event portion for those people interested.
Yeah, really rare, I think, overall for online events to totally shift to being in person, to take the same brand. And as Spencer said, creating a separate brand for it, because the online event you can, and you do have a lot of different things you can control and different things you can do, and different things that make it important versus an in-person event. And it doesn't always translate, and you do have to prioritize different things. For me, the only experience I have taking online event to in-person was because I wasn't legally allowed to do it online anymore. Nintendo came after me with the Galint Melee Open Series, so we took that offline. So scenarios like that are really the only time I would think to take a purely online brand to in-person. But I think online events have a really cool opportunity to be feeder events for in-person stuff, all a part of the same bigger brand, right? The online iterations can be qualifiers for in-person and things like that, because they're so much more accessible with the online events, and then you just fly out the top cut of them. And that's how I see in-person and online mixing.
Yeah, and I'll jump in because I actually did this a couple years ago with Capcom Pro Tour World Warrior for Canada East. Definitely a different monster when it comes to, you have to worry about logistics. Cost is a factor, right? Because with online, you just have whatever at home, you run your stuff, you pay your people. And then when you're doing kind of that shift to in person, you are all of a sudden changing the game. Logistics you have to worry about. You have to worry about getting people there, especially if you're doing something like an online qualifier where you've got people from different regions that are coming out. But to kind of get back to your question, it's like, should you do it? You should just do it. That's I'm being instigator. Just do it. But Spencer had a really great point. You should use your online tournament brand or event brand that you have, but spin a different product. Look at it as from a strictly business standpoint. You have a lot of different brands out there that they serve different products that do different things, right? So this should just be another product in your line of things that you do, and you should take advantage of your branding in terms of it's like, hey, it's a familiar face, but know that this is a completely different product line than what we're offering online. And that way, it's like, if you're really clear with your messaging and you're transparent with your community, it shouldn't be too much of a challenge. But one thing I will say is, I don't understand what your drivers are for doing this, but one thing I see a lot with tournament organizers is they're like, oh, there's a community sentiment that we want to do this, and it's like that's what they really want. What I would say is find some confidence in some of the folks that are in your community, the ones that that you can go out and have a one-on-one conversation, whether it be in person or like just a phone call, because what I found was there's an echo chamber when you have online communities. People will say things because other people are saying it. But when you go and you sit down and you actually have these conversations with people one-to-one, face-to-face, preferably, you'll get a different answer. Be like, oh yeah, it's a cool idea, but I don't know if they're really that committed. Like, that's what I found, and this is something that for both my partner and I for Incendium, yes, it's like community says one thing, but then we'll go sit down with the players and they'll be like, oh, well, you know, it's like, yeah, I know like X and X feels that way. Just kind of feel like I should support him, but like, that's not really how I feel. Like, this is how I actually feel, and judge from that. And then just once again, have those conversations, be transparent, be like, hey, we love the idea. We think this is really cool. We are prepared for it. We're going to try it, or perhaps like right now is not the right time, right? So definitely from that front, should you do it? Absolutely, try it. But definitely know that in the course of development, you're developing a completely different product, right? So don't start and say, hey, I have a lot of success online, and expect that same success offline, because there's a high probability that you're going to disappoint yourself. So make sure when you go and you look at it, set yourself some realistic goals on what you want to achieve, and just be like, hey, we achieved those goals. That's what I did. Could it be bigger? At that point, once you're done, then you can have that conversation, right? So, but if you don't set yourself up with a baseline of what you expect and keep those realistic, you are honestly just setting up yourself for failure. So definitely have those conversations, do your research, sit people down privately, and you're going to get the real story of what people are actually looking for.
Okay, awesome. Well, that takes us to the end of our panel. Also, thank you, Vincent, Kevin, and Spencer for joining us today. So we'll take a short break before we reconvene for our next panel at 3:30.
One thing though, I just want to say, can we get an extra applause for Kevin for putting this together? Thank you, Kevin. You've definitely done an industry first for Canada. This is the first, I think, opportunity that I've, in 20 years, had to sit down with some of the fine folks that I see here in this crowd. Definitely a lot of folks that I know from home that are here as well, but definitely coming out to the West Coast has been a real treat to come and see people that I maybe get to see once every 2 or 3 years. So thank you for putting this on.
I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate everybody who believed in this event and who is here today. I do wish I was able to spend all my time this weekend and not have it to be running around so much and actually get to spend all of this time with you all. But yeah, I'm really grateful we could make this happen, and I hope we get to have many more CEGIS over the next while.
Thank you.